The way that cities develop has important implications for how people travel within the city, how much households spend on transportation, and how much cities spend on infrastructure and services. The objective of this research, which was funded by the US Department of Transportation through the University Transportation Centers program, was to examine the relationship between land use, transit ridership, household expenditures, and city spending with a focus on small urban areas. Low density, auto oriented developments tend to promote the dependency on the automobile, as it's more difficult to make trips in these developments by walking, biking, or transit. Low density, single use developments result in longer distances between destinations, which leads to increased automobile use, increased vehicle miles traveled, and a reduction in trips made by alternative modes. While this may have environmental implications, it also has economic implications. Households in low density, single use, auto oriented developments located far from city centers will likely need to spend more on transportation. They drive longer distances, take more trips by the automobile, and do not have other reliable options. Therefore, they may own more vehicles than someone in a transit or pedestrian oriented neighborhood, and they may incur significantly greater transportation costs. The issue extends beyond households into cities as a whole. Lower density auto oriented developments require more infrastructure per capita than do more compact developments. This means more roadway per capita, more pipes per capita, etc. And that can result in increased per capita infrastructure and maintenance costs for cities. The per capita costs of providing some services, such as fire and police protection, street maintenance, solid waste collection, and sewer and water, could also increase when the population is more spread out. For this study, we collected data and developed a series of models to examine these relationships. First, with regard to land use and transit ridership, the study examined data for small urban areas and found a positive association between population density and transit ridership. After we accounted for other factors that might influence ridership, we found that transit ridership increased as population density increased. With regard to household transportation expenditures, we found that when residential density increases, households tend to own fewer vehicles, drive fewer miles, and spend less on transportation. An analysis of consumer expenditure survey data also shows that after accounting for other factors, those living in high rises and apartment buildings tend to spend less on transportation, and those living in single family homes spend the most. And we also found that among those living in single family homes, those living in newer developments spend more on transportation than those living in older homes, which tend to be in neighborhoods that are denser, closer to the city center, and more accessible by walking, biking, and transit. And lastly, we studied how density and other factors are related to per capita municipal spending. So we examined city spending data for hundreds of cities across the country and focused on 8 categories of spending that could be influenced by land use development. Results showed that density has a significant effect for many spending categories. Density was shown to be negatively associated with per capita operating spending for fire protection, streets and highways, parks and recreation, sewer, solid waste management, and water. Density was also found to be negatively related to construction costs for streets and highways, parks and recreation, sewer, water, and for land and existing facility costs for police, sewer, and water. So, in other words, as density increases, per capita costs go down. Results provide evidence that more densely populated areas result in increased transit use, reduced household transportation expenditures, and reduced per capita city expenditures. The study examined population density, but density tends to be correlated with other land use characteristics. Areas with greater density tend to have more land use mix, better accessibility, better transit services, shorter blocks, and better options for walking and biking. So the results, therefore, are likely capturing the effects not just of density, but other characteristics that tend to be related. The results from this study are useful for planners in smaller communities in evaluating the costs and benefits of different land use strategies. For more information about this research, visit our website or contact me. My name is Jeremy Matson. I'm an assistant professor at North Dakota State at the Small Urban. I work for the Small Urban and Rural Center on Mobility, or SURCOM, which is a program of the Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute at North Dakota State University. At SURCOM, we provide research and education for improving mobility in rural and small urban communities. Visit our website for more information about this research or other research projects, as well as our education programs and training opportunities.